Hi, I'm Reid. This is going to be a short presentation of using the Shopsmith in the shaper mode, specifically under table shaping. I'm going to talk about a couple of things you will need to have. The first, of course, is a Shopsmith machine. The next thing is the shaper arbor with the shaper cutter profile of your choice mounted. We'll be showing you how to mount the different components and how to mount the assembly onto your Mark 7 or Mark 5. Now, I'm assuming that you have a Mark 7 or an upgraded Mark 5 that has a double tilt on it for this operation. You'll want to have the shaper guard that also helps collect sawdust. This is where your dust collection hooks in. And you can see the shaper fence sitting on the table. We will not be using it for this operation. And we'll need to replace the saw insert with the shaper insert. And of course, as always, we recommend hearing protection and safety glasses for any operation you're doing on the Shopsmith. Now from here, I'm going to move the headstock all the way down to the left and lock it into position. Next, I will tilt the table to the left and lock the table tilt lock. Next, I remove the tie bar cover that's underneath the table, just a piece of plastic held on with 2 screws. What I want to do is take the table off in this configuration, pivot 180 degrees, and put it back in place. So I loosen my table height lock. If you have to, you can rock it back and forth a little bit to either get it out or get it started again. And here you can see the table is reversed from its normal position. And the reason that's so important is when we put the machine into the vertical position, the bit will come up right through the opening. And that's what we want to have happen. So we now have the headstock all the way down to the left and locked in position. We have the table tilted into the vertical, reversed from its normal position. We're going to run the table all the way up against the headstock, up against the rubber bumper here. I've now moved to the back side of the machine so you can see the right hand tilt lock. And as you're facing the machine from the operator's point of view, this will be on the right hand side. I just loosen that up, and that's going to let me tilt it up to the right hand mode, or to the left hand side, excuse me. I'm now standing on the back side of the machine just so I'm not in the way of the camera. Normally I would be standing over here on the front side, but for this operation it shouldn't make any difference. So I just tilt it up, grab it up high, that gives you the leverage. And while I'm on the back side of the machine, I will go ahead and tighten the arm lock screw. This is important for stability and safety. It just takes a few turns, you don't need to use a wrench on it. And it will not center in the little detent. It's supposed to be off to the side, so that's just fine. Next, I want to be sure that the quill and the main spindle are centered in the hole in the insert. So, using my table height adjuster, I will just run the table in or out. And what I'm doing here is just looking down in the hole. I think this is a good way to get a quick look at what's going on there. And then I'll use the quill to raise the spindle up. Next, I will mount the shaper arbor onto the main spindle. I have the quill extended all the way up, so we have access to it. I'll use my 5/32 Allen wrench, and of course I'll tighten it onto the flat spot of the shaft, as we always do. And then I'll remove the nut. You may have to use a wrench for this. There's a tongue washer here. That's very important that that's on there. That keeps things from coming loose. We have a 1-inch rub collar, and we have an 1.5 inch rub collar down here. And the one in between we'll take off, not use it. So, the cutter itself, it's important which way the cutter faces. You see the flat spot? We want to be sure that we're feeding the wood into the rotation of the cutter. In other words, with the machine set in the normal forward position, we would be feeding our wood from right to left. We'll put the cutter on, run the machine in the regular direction. And then I'm going to put the rub collar back on, the 1-inch rub collar, and the tongue washer, and finally the nut. And of course lock it down with a couple of wrenches. One inch on the bottom, and I think it's 11/16 on top. Next I will install the shaper guide pins. I'll lower the cutter down to get it out of my way for now. These are the shaper guide pins, and they're designed to thread right into the holes that are in the shaper insert. And this will let us have a little bit better control as we are doing our shaping. Just tighten those in with a flat-bladed screwdriver. Next I will install the shaper guard, and it has a T-nut on the bottom. And I'll arrange this so the guard covers both the cutter and the pins. I'll bring it down until it's just off the surface of the wood. Tighten the post in place. It's just snug, that's all you need. And then we'll tighten the height of the guard itself. And finally I'm going to attach my dust collection hose. I will start off by putting my piece of wood against the guide pin. I rotate that into the cutter, let it come up against the ball bearings, and just slip it right on across. Usually I'll do this in 2 passes, about 80% off the first time, and I'll come back and do a cleaning up pass to get the last of it done. On the outfeed side, the wood is resting against the other post, and that makes it a very stable and safe operation. So let's take one more pass here. You can see that's in pretty good shape there, but we'll take one more pass. And you can see the beautiful profile that's created with just that one pass. I'm going to show you one other profile cut, and all I do here is raise the cutter up using the quill feed. And I raise it up about a 1/8 of an inch or so. Now you can certainly experiment with these to see just exactly what you're looking for. So I hope you can see how simple this is to set up and to use. It's a very satisfying tool, and with one bit you can make many different profiles. So if you have a handful of bits or cutters, it's almost limitless the type of work that you can do with the Shopsmith shaper. And here you will see a completely different profile made just by raising the cutter up about 1/8 of an inch or so.